My name is Scarlett Harris. I'm 33, a marketing manager by trade. And for most of my adult life, I was part of what everyone in Denver called the Harris dynasty. That was before I stood in the rain outside Willowbrook Estate, watching through floor-to-ceiling windows as my family celebrated without me. That was before they banned me from the only business I'd ever known. That was before their biggest client called me boss, and everything changed. I always believed family came first. In the Harris household, that meant putting the family business above all else. Harris & Company Consulting was my father Robert's pride and joy. A marketing empire he built from nothing after dropping out of college with nothing but determination and a loan from his father. By the time I was born, it was already a 7-figure operation with offices in 3 states. Growing up, dinner conversations revolved around client acquisitions and marketing strategies, instead of school activities or personal achievements. My brother Jason, 2 years my senior, thrived in this environment. He had our father's charisma and our mother Linda's sharp mind. I was quieter, more analytical. Traits that should have been valuable in our industry but somehow made me the family outlier. Scarlett just doesn't have that killer instinct, my father would say, not bothering to lower his voice even when I was in the room. Jason knows how to close a deal. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to discover, was that I had been quietly building something of my own all along. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The real trouble began when Jason married Vanessa. With her polished appearance and background in public relations, she seemed perfect for our family's image-conscious world. Mother was thrilled to welcome another power player into the fold. What none of us realized was how skillfully Vanessa would manipulate family dynamics to secure her position. At first, it was subtle. She'd praise Jason's mediocre presentations while finding small flaws in my thoroughly researched strategies. She'd schedule important family meetings when she knew I had unmovable client commitments. When I'd object, she'd tilt her head sympathetically and say, "Oh, Scarlett, I thought you'd want to prioritize family over work. My mistake." My parents never noticed these machinations. They were too enchanted by Vanessa's social connections and the wealthy clients she occasionally brought to the firm. Within a year of the wedding, she had an office at headquarters despite having no official role in the company. I tried to be the bigger person. I worked harder, stayed later, and produced measurable results for our clients. But no matter how many successful campaigns I launched, or how many clients specifically requested to work with me, my contributions were minimized while Jason's were celebrated. On March 15, 2021, Jason approached me about a business expansion opportunity. We were at the office late. Everyone else had gone home, and he actually seemed vulnerable for once. "I need $20,000 by Friday," he said, running his hands through his perfectly styled hair. "Dad can't know about this. It's an investment opportunity that could really put us on the map." Against my better judgment, I transferred the money from my personal savings that night. He promised to pay me back within 6 months with interest. I even drafted a simple agreement, which he signed without reading. 6 months came and went. When I brought it up at a family dinner, he laughed it off. "Come on, Scar, it's family money. We're all working toward the same goal, right?" Vanessa smirked over her wine glass. "Besides, it's not like you have anyone to save for. No husband, no kids." She let the implication hang in the air. My mother changed the subject to Jason's recent golf tournament victory. My father nodded approvingly at his son, while completely ignoring the fact that he'd essentially stolen $20,000 from his daughter. After dinner, Vanessa cornered me in the kitchen. "I'll never be CEO material like Jason," she texted me while standing 3 feet away, smiling sweetly as I read it. When I looked up, confused by the childish approach, she whispered, "I just want a record of setting you straight, in case you get ideas." I should have left then. I should have walked away and never looked back. But Harris & Co. was in my blood. I'd grown up visiting the office, learning the business from the ground up. Some of the employees had known me since I was in pigtails. How could I abandon the only professional world I'd ever known? Instead, I channeled my frustration into a side project. I established Harris Innovations LLC. a boutique marketing consultancy focusing on digital strategies for small businesses. I worked weekends, evenings, anytime I wasn't at the family firm. I carefully selected clients in industries that wouldn't compete with Harris & Company, building a reputation for personalized service and cutting-edge campaigns. By November 2022, my little side business was generating steady revenue. I had 3 full-time employees working remotely and a small office in a converted warehouse in a trendy part of Denver. I kept it completely separate from my family life, knowing they would find a way to diminish it, or worse, try to absorb it into the family business. That same month, Harris & Company was pitching to Meridian Investments, a financial services company looking to rebrand their entire portfolio. It was exactly the kind of project I excelled at, requiring detailed market analysis and creative strategy. I spent weeks preparing materials and researching Meridian's position in the market. The morning of the pitch, I arrived early at the office to find the conference room already occupied. Jason, Vanessa, and my father were there with the presentation I had created, but my name had been removed from all documents. "What's going on?" I asked, my coffee going cold in my hand. "Executive decision," my father said, without looking up from his tablet. "Jason will lead this pitch." "But I've been working on this for weeks. I know this presentation inside and out." "That's why Jason will do great," Vanessa said with a saccharine smile. "He's been studying your notes. Such thorough work, Scarlett." "You can sit in if you want," Jason offered magnanimously. "Just don't interrupt." I sat through that meeting in silent fury as Jason stumbled through my presentation, taking credit for my market analysis and strategic recommendations. When Meridian's CEO, Mr. Whitford, asked a technical question about digital integration that Jason couldn't answer, I jumped in with the solution. After the meeting, my father pulled me aside. "Don't ever undermine your brother like that again. We need to present a united front." I wasn't undermining him. I was saving the pitch. Jason is the face of this company's future. You need to accept that. That night, I went to my little office and cried for the first time in years. Then I made a decision. If my family wouldn't value my contributions, I would focus on building something they couldn't take from me. Over the next year, Harris Innovations grew exponentially. I specialized in clients that Harris & Company overlooked: innovative startups, small businesses with big visions, companies led by women and minorities. I invested in a marketing automation software that I eventually patented, generating a steady stream of passive income through licensing. I also became a silent partner in 3 restaurants around Denver: Blue Oak Bistro, the Rusty Anchor, and Tuscany Gardens. These investments diversified my portfolio and gave me connections outside the marketing world. All the while, I maintained my role at Harris & Company's, performing well enough to avoid scrutiny, but not so brilliantly that I'd attract unwanted attention from my family. It was a delicate balance, and it was draining me. The breaking point came at the annual Harris Family Christmas Party on December 20th, 2023. The Fairway Club was decorated in tasteful holiday splendor, with crystal chandeliers reflecting the light from thousands of white twinkle lights. The guest list included clients, employees, family friends, and business associates, over 70 people in all, dressed in their holiday finest. I wore a forest green gown I'd purchased specifically for the occasion, feeling optimistic despite everything. My grandfather had passed away earlier that year, and in his will, he had left me $50,000, earmarked specifically for Scarlett's entrepreneurial ventures. It was the first time anyone in my family had acknowledged my ambition, even if it was from beyond the grave. The inheritance was supposed to be distributed that week, and I had plans to use it to expand Harris Innovations into a larger office space. My 3 employees had grown to 7, and we were cramped in our current location. Midway through the evening, Jason clinked his glass for a toast. He stood at the center of the room, Vanessa at his side in a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "First, I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate another record year at Harris & Company's," he began, his voice carrying across the hushed room. "Family is everything to us. and we consider many of you honorary members of the Harris clan." Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the crowd. "In that spirit, I have two announcements to make tonight," Jason continued. "First, I'm proud to say that Harris & Co. will be expanding into the West Coast market in the new year, with a new office in Seattle." Applause broke out, and my father beamed with pride. This was news to me. I hadn't been included in any expansion discussions. "Second," Jason said, his expression growing serious, "it's with a heavy heart that I announce a change in our company structure. My sister Scarlett will no longer be part of Harris & Co. Consulting." The room went silent. All eyes turned to me, standing frozen with a champagne flute halfway to my lips. Recent discrepancies in her work have made it clear that her heart isn't with the family business anymore. Jason continued. "A marketing campaign for Westridge Properties contained significant errors that could have cost us the account. Thankfully, Vanessa caught them before any damage was done." My mind raced. The Westridge campaign had been flawless. I had triple-checked everything myself, and I hadn't heard a single complaint from the client. In fact, they had sent a thank you basket just last week. "Additionally," Jason went on, his voice taking on a regretful tone that made my skin crawl, "our parents have decided that Grandpa's inheritance will be redirected to fund our Seattle expansion. It's what he would have wanted, to see the family business grow." My mother avoided my gaze. My father nodded solemnly as if this betrayal was somehow noble. Cousin Emma, who worked at the family's law firm and had helped with Grandpa's will, looked shocked. She knew as well as I did that this was not what our grandfather had intended. I stood there, publicly humiliated, watching everything collapse around me, the money that was rightfully mine, the career I had invested in despite years of mistreatment, all of it stripped away in a single speech. Later, in the parking lot, I confronted my mother as she waited for the valet to bring her car. "That money was meant for my startup," I said, shivering in the December cold without my coat. "Grandpa specifically wrote that in his will." "Darling, your little side project is a hobby, not a real business," she replied, checking her reflection in her compact mirror. "Jason needs that capital for something important. The Seattle office will secure the Harris legacy." "And what about my legacy? Don't I deserve anything from this family?" She sighed as if I was being unreasonable. "Scarlett, you've always been so dramatic. We're not cutting you off. We're just making the best business decision for everyone." "Everyone except me. You'll find something else. Maybe a nice marketing job at one of those tech companies. You're good with computers, right?" The valet pulled up with her Mercedes. "We'll talk after the holidays." But I knew we wouldn't. As I sat alone in my Toyota Camry, hands shaking on the steering wheel, I realized that nothing would ever change unless I forced it to change. They would continue to use me, undermine me, and discard me whenever it suited them. That night, I made a promise to myself. No more doormat. No more sacrificing my worth for people who didn't value me. No more putting family first when they always put me last. The next morning, I called Whitfield Legal Group and scheduled a consultation for January 12, 2024. If my family wanted to play dirty, I needed to know my options. What I didn't expect was to discover just how dirty they had been playing all along. My attorney, Margaret Whitfield, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s with a reputation for handling complex family business disputes, listened carefully to my story. Then she asked me a simple question. "Have you ever audited the company books?" I hadn't. Despite working there for years, I'd never had access to the financial side of Harris & Co. That had always been my father's domain, and more recently, Jason's. "I think we should start there," Margaret said. "If they're willing to violate your grandfather's will, there may be other financial irregularities." She helped me file for discovery as part of a potential lawsuit. What we found was staggering. The $20,000 I had loaned Jason had never gone to any business expansion. Instead, it had been used to pay off gambling debts he had accumulated at an underground poker club. Worse, he had taken similar loans from company accounts, over $200,000 in total, all disguised as marketing expenses for clients that didn't exist. Vanessa had been receiving a substantial salary as a brand consultant, despite having no clients or deliverables. She had also been using company funds to finance her lavish Instagram lifestyle, writing off designer clothes and luxury vacations as influencer marketing research. Most shocking of all, my father had known about at least some of these activities and had helped cover them up, creating false documentation and misleading the company's board of directors. Meanwhile, Meridian Investments, the client Jason had pitched to using my work, had been expressing dissatisfaction with their recent campaigns. According to emails I obtained, they had specifically requested to work with me again, but Jason had told them I was unavailable and assigned a junior team member to their account. All of this would be damaging if revealed, but I needed more than just evidence. I needed the right moment, the right audience, and an unassailable position. I couldn't just be the disgruntled daughter crying foul. I needed to be the professional exposing genuine misconduct. The opportunity presented itself when I learned that Harris & Company was hosting an engagement party for Meridian Investments on February 18, 2024. The company had finally signed a major contract after months of negotiations, and Jason was taking full credit for securing the deal. The event would be held at the Belmont Plaza's Crystal Ballroom, with over 150 guests expected to attend. It would be the perfect stage for my revelation. In the weeks leading up to the event, I prepared meticulously. I compiled evidence, practiced my presentation, and even invested in a new wardrobe for the occasion. I wanted to look every inch the successful businesswoman I had become despite my family's efforts to hold me back. I also reached out to Mr. Whitford, Meridian's CEO, requesting a private meeting. To my surprise, he agreed immediately. We met at a quiet cafe far from any Harris family haunts. Mr. Whitford, a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and keen blue eyes, ordered black coffee and got straight to the point. "I've been impressed with your work for a long time, Ms. Harris," he said. "The campaigns you developed for us outperformed all projections. When you stopped working on our account, the quality dropped significantly." "I wasn't aware you knew it was my work," I admitted. He smiled. "I make it my business to know who's really responsible for good results. Your brother takes credit, but anyone with industry experience can tell the difference between your strategies and his attempts to imitate them." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I signed this new contract because your father assured me you would be involved again. Was that a lie?" I told him the truth about being forced out of the company, about Jason and Vanessa's deceptions, about the financial irregularities. I showed him some of the evidence I had gathered. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup. Finally, he looked up. "The engagement party next week. Will you be there?" "I wasn't invited." "You are now," he said, pulling out his phone. "I'm texting your father to insist that you attend as a condition of our continued relationship. I want to see how they handle this situation." True to his word, I received a terse call from my father the next day, instructing me to attend the event for the sake of the company. He didn't apologize or acknowledge the injustice of my situation. He simply expected me to play along with the family narrative one more time. Little did he know, I had no intention of playing along ever again. The night of the engagement party arrived cold and clear. The Crystal Ballroom glittered with elegant decorations and soft lighting. A string quartet played in one corner while waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. I arrived fashionably late, wearing a midnight blue designer dress that made me feel armored for battle. I carried a small clutch containing a tablet preloaded with my presentation, ready to connect to the ballroom's projection system. As I entered, conversations faltered. My mother's champagne glass paused halfway to her lips. My father's practiced smile flickered. Jason, holding court near the stage, stopped mid-sentence. Vanessa recovered first, gliding toward me with a plastic smile. "Scarlett, what a surprise. We didn't think you'd come." The subtext was clear. You weren't supposed to come. "Mr. Whitford insisted," I replied, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "He specifically asked for me to be here." Before she could respond, Mr. Whitford himself appeared at my side. Ah, Scarlett, the woman of the hour. He turned to address the curious onlookers. Did you all know that Scarlett is the reason Meridian decided to work with Harris & Company in the first place? Her marketing strategy for our retirement fund line increased applications by 43% in a single quarter. Vanessa's smile hardened. Well, we're all one big team here at Harris & Co. Are we? I asked innocently. I thought I was no longer part of the company. Isn't that what Jason announced at the Christmas party? An uncomfortable murmur ran through the nearby guests. My father appeared, placing a firm hand on my shoulder. Let's not discuss family matters at a celebration, he said with a tight smile. Scarlett, may I speak with you privately? Actually, Robert, I replied, using his first name deliberately. I think it's time we discussed family matters openly. I've been keeping secrets too long. I moved toward the stage where Jason had been preparing to make a speech. The tech coordinator, an old friend who had always been kind to me, nodded slightly as I approached. He knew what I needed without me having to ask. I took the microphone while my tablet connected to the projector. The room quieted, all eyes on me. My family stood frozen, unsure how to stop what was about to happen without creating a scene. Good evening, everyone, I began, my voice steadier than I felt. For those who don't know me, I'm Scarlett Harris. Until recently, I was the marketing director at Harris & Company Consulting, though you might not know that since my brother Jason often took credit for my work. Shocked whispers rippled through the crowd. Jason started toward the stage, but Mr. Whitford stepped in his path, arms crossed. You might wonder why I'm speaking tonight. The truth is, I've been silenced for too long, and what I have to say affects everyone in this room who does business with Harris & Co. The first slide appeared on the screen behind me, an email from Jason to Vanessa discussing how to remove me from the Meridian account despite the client's specific request for me. This is just the beginning, I continued, advancing through my presentation. Over the past several weeks, I've discovered numerous instances of financial mismanagement, fraud, and deception within the company my grandfather built with integrity. Slide after damning slide appeared on the screen. Bank statements showing Jason's misappropriation of funds, falsified reports to the board, Vanessa's fraudulent consultant payments, evidence that my Westridge campaign had been deliberately sabotaged to justify my removal. My mother's face had gone pale. My father stared at the floor. Jason attempted to interrupt several times, claiming the evidence was doctored or taken out of context, but each protest sounded weaker than the last. When I revealed the document showing how they had diverted my inheritance against the explicit terms of my grandfather's will, audible gasps came from around the room. Cousin Emma stood up from her table, arms crossed, and nodded firmly in confirmation. I didn't want to believe my own family would betray me like this, I said, my voice finally breaking slightly. I wanted to believe that blood means something, but the Harris family has shown me that the only thing that matters is power and appearance. I took a deep breath and delivered the final blow. As of this morning, I filed a formal complaint with the state licensing board regarding these financial irregularities. I've also initiated legal proceedings to recover my stolen inheritance and additional damages. But most importantly, I'm announcing that Harris Innovations LLC, my own marketing firm that I built while being undermined at every turn, has just secured Meridian Investments as our newest client. Mr. Whitford stepped forward, taking the microphone from my hand. What Scarlett hasn't told you, he said, scanning the shocked faces in the room, is that her side business has outperformed Harris & Co. in every metric that matters to clients like me. While her family was busy undermining her, Scarlett built a company with nearly $2 million in annual revenue and a client satisfaction rate that's unmatched in the industry. He turned to me with genuine respect in his eyes. We're not just becoming a client. Scarlett, Meridian wants to invest in Harris Innovations as a strategic partner. Your vision for ethical, results-driven marketing is exactly what the industry needs. The room erupted in a mixture of applause, shocked exclamations, and hurried whispers. My former colleagues looked at me with new eyes. Clients who had only known me as Jason's quiet sister were suddenly interested in my business card. Through it all, my family stood isolated in their shame. My mother made a feeble attempt to approach me, but I turned away. There would be time for reconciliation later. If they earned it, tonight was about justice, not forgiveness. As the evening wound down, I found myself standing with Mr. Whitford near the ballroom doors. "That was quite a performance," he said with a small smile. "Are you ready for what comes next? They won't go down without a fight." I watched as my father argued with board members in a corner, as Jason downed another scotch at the bar, as Vanessa tapped furiously on her phone, no doubt trying to manage the impending social media fallout. "I've been fighting them my whole life," I replied. "The difference is, now I'm fighting in the open." The aftermath was both swift and far-reaching. By the following morning, Harris & Company stock had dropped 15%. By the end of the week, the board had called an emergency meeting to address the allegations of financial impropriety. Jason faced not only the internal investigation, but also a $500,000 fraud lawsuit from Whitfield Legal Group on my behalf. The evidence was too substantial to dismiss, and his attempts to blame junior employees only made him appear more guilty. Vanessa's carefully cultivated image as a business influencer crumbled as screenshots of her texts and emails circulated among industry insiders. She lost thousands of Instagram followers overnight as the story spread. My parents' marriage, already strained by years of my father's workaholic tendencies and my mother's social climbing, couldn't withstand the pressure. They separated within weeks, with divorce papers filed on March 3, 2024. As for me, the revelations at the engagement party catapulted Harris Innovations into the spotlight. The investment from Meridian allowed me to move into a proper office and hire additional staff. Former Harris & Company's clients reached out, eager to work with the real marketing genius of the Harris family. The board appointed me interim CEO of Harris & Company, while the investigation into Jason's activities continued. It was a position I accepted only temporarily, with the condition that a complete restructuring would follow. I had no desire to salvage my family's corrupt legacy. I was building my own. By spring, I had made the difficult decision to relocate to Seattle. Ironically, the very city where Jason had planned to expand. The Harris name still carried weight there, but without the tarnished reputation it now had in Denver. The new headquarters of Harris Innovations LLC opened on April 15, 2024, in a renovated warehouse with views of Puget Sound. My team of 25 employees, including several who had left Harris & Company to join me, filled the space with energy and innovative ideas. The last time I saw Jason was at the final court hearing regarding my inheritance. He looked diminished somehow, his designer suit hanging loosely on his frame, dark circles under his eyes. I heard he'd taken a management position at a big box store, a humbling change from his former executive status. My father attempted reconciliation through a series of awkward emails and voicemails. "I was wrong about you," he admitted in one message. "I always saw your quietness as weakness. I didn't understand that you were just waiting for the right moment." My mother was less contrite, maintaining that she had only ever wanted what was best for the family. "You could have talked to us instead of humiliating us publicly," she complained, never acknowledging that I had tried to talk to them for years. I didn't rush to forgive any of them. Some wounds take time to heal, if they ever do. Instead, I focused on building a company based on the values that Harris & Co. had abandoned: integrity, innovation, and genuine respect for everyone's contributions. In the midst of this professional rebirth, I found unexpected personal connections as well. My employees became a chosen family of sorts, loyal and supportive in ways my blood relatives had never been. At a business conference in Seattle that summer, I met James Miller, an investor with a background in sustainable technology. Unlike my family, he was interested in hearing my ideas, not just my name or my company's valuation. Our coffee meeting turned into dinner, which turned into regular conversations about business ethics and the future of marketing in a changing world. When he asked about my family during one of those dinners, I gave him the unvarnished truth. "They banned me from the family business," I said, "until their biggest client called me boss. Now I'm building something better. He raised his glass with a smile. To building something better. I clinked my glass against his, finally feeling like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, not as the sidelined daughter or the overlooked sister, but as Scarlett Harris, CEO and founder, architect of my own destiny. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you deserve. Sometimes you have to create your own legacy, even if it means dismantling the one you inherited. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't just success, it's creating a new definition of success altogether. They banned me from the family business, thinking it would break me. Instead, it set me free.